Welcome back to Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. We are in Drezen, more specifically in the barracks of Drezen. So let's continue our exploring of the city. Here's Elan. Commander, my regards, that is all he has to say. Loot some stuff, go up to the roof and have a look up there. Doesn't seem to be much of interest up here. Don't even think there was a ladder down or anything, so... Okay, now we should head towards the temple. There are ghosts in the graveyard, okay. Don't I deserve a proper grave at least? I don't see the problem with having ghosts in the graveyard. You probably
I know the way.
Use them for something. Never can tell. One of those altars. Sanctification. Oh, and here's Arushale. We haven't talked to her. Arushale's ruby eyes stare watchfully at passers-by who don't notice her even at arm's length. She turns to you, her face a mixture of contemplation, sadness, and admiration. They're amazing, aren't they? We are being attacked by demons with unusual powers. Do you know anything about them? Aru thinks for a long while. Finally, she answers hesitantly. Back in Alushanira, there were rumors about terrible experiments that Baphomet and Descari performed on their troops to make them stronger. Here, on the material plane, those rumors were embellished with lots of details. Some say the demons undergo rituals acquired from Zon Kuthon. Others say they feed on the blood of angels, or Qliphoths, or demon lords. Still others say that there are no experiments, and Baphomet is just bringing back fighters from the future. A future in which the demons have already taken all of Golarion. Is there a grain of truth in any of these ramblings? There's no way to know. Naturally, none of these rumors give any indication of where these demons come from. I'm sorry I can't help. The only thing that's clear is that the lowly fighters in the army of the Abyss are as puzzled by this as we are. What are you doing here? I'm watching. He nods at the city dwellers as they hurry past. I'm listening to their conversations, studying their faces. I'm trying to understand what they truly are. Have you learned anything new about mortals? They love cats! Aru speaks in a very serious manner, as if sharing an important scientific discovery with you, but then a moment later she smiles to give the joke away. Seriously, have your observations of humans led to anything? I wouldn't want to draw any rash conclusions. I've only been watching them for a short while, but I think I have understood one thing. The succubi have a saying, mortals always lie. If a mortal isn't talking, it means she's busy lying to herself. But now I see this isn't true. You mortals aren't liars, you're dreamers. Each of you creates a huge daydream for yourself and everyone you share your life with. It isn't exactly a lie because the daydream is your truth. Why do you like to watch people? You know, in my old life, I thought I knew everything about them. I was a master of seduction after all. I knew how to tempt a mortal into doing anything I required, to trap them in a lie or lie myself and never get caught. It's disgusting to remember, but that was my life for many centuries. Now I see I knew nothing. A demon warrior probably also considers himself an expert on mortals because he's killed so many of them. He certainly knows where to thrust the spear for a quick death and where to thrust it for a long and painful one, and he thinks that's enough. My knowledge, it was of the same kind. I ruined many mortals without learning the first thing about them. Now I watch them to understand them. This won't give my victims back their lives, of course, but still, by growing closer to these mortals, it's like I'm paying back some part of my debt to my victims' memories. I see. Let me ask you another question. Of course, but forgive me if I don't have any answers. Tell me about yourself. I'm afraid you won't like what I'm going to tell you. Where do succubi come from? Did you have a childhood? No. Well, yes, but in brief, the abyss is nothing like the mortal world. Aru makes a gesture in the air, trying to find the right words. You remember life since conception. No, wait, you don't remember that part, do you? But certainly you know everything since birth. We do not. Normally, when a human dies, the Lady of Graves decides which plane they go to. Most often, those who arrive in the abyss turn into larvae. You know, the little worms no one notices until you step on them. They crawl in the mud for centuries, devouring each other, and the strongest one, they turn into demons. I don't know how that transformation happens. Maybe we hatch out of them like caterpillars out of butterflies. No, wait, it's the other way around. Or maybe greater demons sculpt us out of them, like so much clay? I don't know what happened to the larvae that they used to make me. And my own memory? It begins with vague, fragmentary images. Terrors, executions, orgies. I remember some poor lad, half gnawed by the larvae. He was crying and begging to be killed, and I pointed at him and laughed and said I wouldn't. Desna, forgive me, I am so ashamed. How did you end up turning against the abyss? Temptation. Aru smiles sadly. Strange, isn't it? So many people believe that being good is important, but it is boring and unpleasant. And all that's enjoyable and tempting pertains to evil. Even the servants of kind gods often think so, do they not? You have no idea how easy that makes the role of a temptress. Well, it was my great fortune to discover that it's not always like that. Aru looks away. My last victim was a priestess of Desna, the Tender of Dreams. As you know, demons do not sleep. Mortals always compare their greatest moments to dreams. So I decided it would be interesting to see for myself, and while I was at it, give me goddess, to mock Desna. This priestess lay in my arms, dying of my kiss. I remember every smallest detail. The cold sweat on her skin, her eyes rolled back into her head, her weak whisper. So difficult to recount. Well, I dove into her mind to see what mortal dreams were like, but the goddess saw me in her realm, and it turned out I remained there far longer than I planned. What did Desna do to you? As a punishment, she gave me mercy. I often think, why me? She could easily have blown me away like smoke with a flick of her finger. The gods rarely trouble themselves with the lives of mortals, and even less so with demons, but for reasons of her own she paid me special attention. She awoke me in the memories of the sinners whose souls were used to create me. All those humans. I knew nothing of them until Desna showed me. Each of them had their own dreams, and a world without pity trampled each of them and placed them on a path that led to the abyss. Their memories, all their hopes and pain. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to talk about this. You see tears well up in the succubus's eyes. Aru wipes away her tears and continues. The most important thing I realized was that every mortal is a little world of hopes and dreams, and that although I might be a succubus, I didn't have to live forever with those beastly, boring pleasures and tortures of the abyss. I can be free. I can be myself. Only I can understand who I am. You don't know who you are? What of you? Do you know who you are? Are there many mortals who can make that claim? Before returning me to the mortal realm, Desna whispered something to me. I can still hear her words. She asked me, "And what do you dream of?" And I don't know. I still don't. You see, demons are simple creatures. Aru purses her lips. Each is guided by 2 or 3 strong sins. Before my conversion, my sins were all that I was. A ball of desire without anyone behind them doing the desiring. Desires for sex, for flattery, and food. But now I have me, and it's amazing, but it's so complicated. Aru makes an apologetic gesture and smiles. What did you do after Desna converted you? I travelled. In the beginning I thought it wise to keep away from demons and their temptations, run off to Absalom, or perhaps even further, to another plane. But then I realized that I didn't deserve freedom yet. The abyss was still in me. It called to me, tempting me and seducing me. If I ran away, I would soon return to my old habits. Aru forces the word from her mouth. That is why I came here, to join the war. To remember who my enemy is. To defeat the demons, not just for the mortal world, but for myself as well. Because if I don't kill my past, it will always be reaching for me. I'm a wonderful liar. I'm no longer proud of it, but it's still true. The demons never suspected my treason until the very end. I lived as a spy and regularly reported back to the priests of Desna whatever I learned. Naturally, I concealed my identity from them as well. I would never have been caught, but when I learned that Descari was planning an attack on Kenabres, there was no time for caution. I risked everything to warn you and aid with my freedom. I think I'll just go with this one here. You didn't stay locked up long. True, Aru smiles. No bars can hold me for long. So, do you worship Desna now? The goddess did a lot for me, more than I ever deserved. Asking anything more of her would be impudent. I am grateful to her, but I try not to trouble her with my prayers. Thank you for your answers. I hope they didn't upset you too much, at least not as much as they upset me. May I ask you a personal question? The kind of question a mortal might ask a succubus. You want to talk about sex? Aru looks you in the eye. Ask me anything, I'll not keep secrets from you, but don't expect to hear anything light-hearted or pleasant. The kiss of a succubus is deadly, isn't it? Not just the kiss. Any caress of any kind sucks the lives from mortals, and there's nothing I can do about it. Aru touches her lips ever so slightly. For mortals, tenderness is tenderness, and violence is violence, but I don't know what it's like to kiss and not inflict pain. I just hope my observations of mortals will help me understand. Young lovers, old spouses, even what mortals condemn as promiscuity. To me, it all looks like something amazingly human. Wait, you mean you don't just watch people during the day out in the street? Well, I never touch anyone. I never harm anyone. I just watch and listen. Is that bad? You must respect others' privacy. Please, restrict yourself to observing people in public. If you say so. I'm sorry if I did something wrong. I haven't quite figured out how mortal life works. What is sex between demons like? Everything demons do is a sort of cannibalism. Each devours mortals and other demons in their own way. Some enjoy literally tearing off pieces of flesh with their teeth. Others like to subdue and turn their prey into slaves and living tools. Some feed on others' humiliation. It comes in different forms, but the essence is always the same. Another being is an object to be used for your own pleasure. Demon sex doesn't differ from any other type of violence. In my former life, it was something I did to others or others did to me. Only one person ever received pleasure, not the other. Do you still feel desire? Aru keeps a long silence as she searches for the right words. You see, on the one hand, my succubus nature remains with me. I feel... The desire I feel is the one from my old life. When I look at any mortal, I immediately imagine how... She looks away. But that feeling, that desire, it's not what mortals feel. When you like someone, you don't ponder how good it would feel to drink their soul, do you? You think about how good it would feel to be together. Together, you see? You know how to want someone and at the same time not want to destroy them. For me, it's always one and the same. True despair rings in Aru's voice. I'm not even talking about love, just the common mutual affection of mortals when they're not poisoned with violence. Now I know that I've never felt it. It's hard to imagine how it's impossible. Love is a wonderful feeling. I believe you will be able to experience it someday. I hope so. It's just that... She brings her hand to her chest. I don't deserve it. Who would dare love a predator from the abyss who, by her very nature, is unable to return those feelings? Do not lose hope. One day you will find someone to teach you how to feel. Thank you. It is hard for me to imagine right now, but I still can hope. Thank you for being so open. Aru nods without saying a word. Tell me about life in the abyss. I can't tell you all about the abyss. I've only seen a small part. If you like, I can tell you about the Midnight Isles and Alushanira. Tell me about the Midnight Isles. In the ocean of Ishiar, not far from the mouth of the river Styx, there is a chain of islands. This is the realm of Nocticula, the queen of the succubi. There is no sun there, only a moonlit night alternating with a moonless one. Each of the islands is one of Nocticula's trophies, the remains of a powerful entity that perished at her hands. As you see, you cannot take a step in the abyss without treading on corpses. Tell me about Alushanira. The Porphyry city is Nocticula's capital. There is no city like it in the mortal world. Absalom is a village in comparison. Millions, and I don't exaggerate, millions of demons and mortals live there. Some come voluntarily, not only from Golarion, but from other planes as well. Nocticula keeps an open boundary and enjoys having many guests, merchants and travelers in the city. Some arrive in chains. The slave trade is the most thriving business in the city. From afar, the city may seem a merry place. Many of its dwellers do enjoy themselves. Until it's their turn to become someone else's toy. It's a city of suffering, Caledon, of cheerful, festive torments that everyone in the city inflicts on those around them. What are some places of interest in Alushanira? The heart of the business quarter is the flesh markets, where the slave trade takes place. I grew up in the mansion of Lady Velexia. Her house is always full of guests doing their best to entertain her. Those whose performance is not to her liking risk remaining at her house forever. The main attraction of the succubi city is, of course, the brothels, the 10,000 delights. I need not tell you what they offer. If you can imagine it, someone is selling it. Not far from there you can find the harem of ardent dreams, which serves as a sort of a city hall. Shamira, Nocticula's right hand and mayor of Alushanira, receives her visitors there. For those who prefer bloodier sports, there are many arenas in the city. The most famous of them is Battle Bliss. Battles run continuously without breaks and without rules. It doesn't matter what trickery you use to win, it only matters how much fun the crowd is having. And above it all towers the House of Silken Shadows, Nocticula's palace. Hundreds, thousands of towers and domes, adorned with jewels. There are legends of what happens inside. Many have striven to experience the delights of the Succubi Queen's palace, forgetting that it was built for her pleasure, not theirs. What can you tell me about Nocticula? She's called the Lady in Shadow. They say that she was the first succubus. She's far from the most powerful of demon lords, but this hasn't kept her from being the ruin of many creatures significantly more powerful than herself, even building her kingdom upon their bones. They say that, like Lamashtu, she strives to turn herself from a demon lord into a true goddess. She enjoys killing, but her favorite tools are seduction and deception. She only stoops to crude violence when there are no other games to play, and even then she backstabs from the shadows. Her favorite weapon is a crossbow, though Silk Garrot would suit her better. If you should ever meet her, do not believe a word she says, and do not fall for her provocations. Do not try to beat her at her own game, and most importantly, remember that the worst mistake anyone can make is to underestimate her. Thanks for the information. I'll be happy if it helps. What do you think of the powers I gave you? It's a great temptation. I don't know if I should be trusted with such power. I certainly wouldn't trust myself with it. When you have so much power, it's easy to decide you're a god and the mortals are your toys. Perhaps I should wait until after we defeat the forces of the Abyss. That's precisely what these powers are for. She thinks for a moment, then speaks softly. You take a great risk. I'm sure I can handle the temptation. It is hard enough as it is. Well, I have to go. I will be watching you. Sure you will. I like Aru. And here we have Arsino. A woman in gold-embroidered cleric's robes greets you with a polite bow. Her eyes, the color of molten gold, gleam brightly in her dusky face. Greetings, Commander. My name is Arsino. I am a messenger from the Temple of Avadar in Absalom, and I came here assuming the defenders of the fortress could use the services of a cleric. Perhaps you've heard about the wound that sometimes opens in my chest? Are you familiar with this kind of ailment? Arsino quickly probes you with the skill of an experienced healer. So the wound was right here, and then it disappeared and reappeared? Amazing. No, this is the first time I've ever heard of such magic. What do you think it might be? I think it is some kind of demonic corruption, or particles of chaos from the abyss. Particles of chaos from the abyss have entered through the wound into your body and made it so unstable. It sounds quite interesting, incidentally. Judging from the records of researchers of the abyss, stranger things have happened in this cursed place. Can you give me some advice on how to heal it? I am sure that you have already used the purification and chaos warding spells, and for obvious reasons you do not have the option of leaving the campaign and going on a long pilgrimage to various shrines. Since that is the case, keep a diary. Make careful and systematic entries about your well-being. If it gets worse, record the circumstances under which it happens. I'm afraid this is the only advice I can offer right now. I want you to try to heal me. I'm sorry, but I do not have the right to do that. A healer who makes a blind attempt to heal a patient who is not on the verge of death is an irresponsible fool. You do not seem to be dying, so we will not take any unnecessary risks. And then this enigmatic response that I am ever bemused whenever the game presents me. Thank you, it all makes sense to me now. What services do you provide? This is the same as Rathimus said. Avadar, patron deity of law, trade, and the prosperity of cities. How did you end up in Drezen? My story has grown longer and longer over the years, yet sadly it never gets any more interesting. I was born and raised in Absalom, and soon I realized that bringing the word of Avadar to places where it's already been heard was too easy a challenge for a cleric like me. I have travelled all across Golarion since then, watching civilization bring enlightenment to the wildest of places. This brings joy to my heart and makes me feel like I serve my god with my deeds, and not only with my words. The tiny barony in the Stolen Lands that had been my home for a very long time eventually turned into a strong and prosperous kingdom, and I felt that I had to go somewhere else and bring the blessing of Avadar to someone who really needed it. It will take quite a long time for Drezen to recover and become an unfailing stronghold once again, but I will do my very best to help. I thought that name was familiar. She is in, or he. No, she. She is in Pathfinder Kingmaker as well. Don't remember how or what role she has, but I definitely remember her. You are an Aasimar, if I'm not mistaken. Oh yes, I am an Aasimar. Hard to miss, isn't it? I look exactly like my great-great-grandmother, but I am the only one among my kin to have Aasimar blood manifest so visibly in my appearance. I have to admit that it is a very fortunate coincidence. My Aasimar features are rather appealing and make people trust me more easily, and this is a good quality to have for a priestess wishing to gather a congregation. I see that you have consecrated the Altar of Avadar. So I have. And before you ask me why I did this when there is a Temple of Iomedae in Drezen, I will answer. Even though my god is the ally of the Inheritor, some still prefer to pray and trust in Avadar instead of her. After all, my humble altar is no worse at removing the corruption of the Abyss than the grandiose altar in the Temple of Iomedae. I could use the help of a cleric, and that is precisely why I'm here. Do you sell any... Ooh. Yeah, I'm gonna buy that. Now, the red salamander ring, I was pretty sure that that was possible to get somewhere here, but it seems that they might have fixed that. This one is pretty nice. I think we will buy this later on. But then again, it's just a +2 enhancement to charisma. Their next spell becomes empowered. All variable numeric effects of an empowered spell are increased by half, including bonuses to those rolls. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, immunity to all compulsion effects is decent, but -2 penalty to charisma and -3 penalty on all persuasion checks, that is not nice. That is very much whatever. Anything else you have? Let's get these cheap items. I don't need any scroll scribers kit or alchemist kits right now. I'm also not too interested in all of these very expensive things. That one is useful though. Okay. Now, the ring that we bought is for perception and trickery. So we'll put that on Camellia for now. She can definitely use that. No, wrong character. That is myself. Camellia, where are you? You don't have any ring at all. Here, have this. Probably just sell that lesser phylactery. I think I'll do that. I'll keep that. But that one is useless. Let's go into the temple. Should look a little bit more pleasant now. This place has been sanctified as well, so we have double sanctification here. Secret wall is gone.
As it should be.
There's a book. I mean, seriously. If you break the lock, you usually ruin whatever is inside. I have a trickery of 15, which is pretty decent. And yet the things around town here is that high level. Just out of curiosity, 20% and 45%. If I borrow that ring from Camellia, put it instead of that ring of protection plus 2. Where did it go? $40 and $65. Well, we are definitely going to need quite an extensive bit of additional trickery before we can go ahead and start trying to loot things from these areas. There doesn't appear to be anything else in here though, so we're almost done with Drezen proper. See, we're at 32 minutes almost, which means that this episode might actually get up to 1 hour or so, because I do not want to have a 0.3 episode. 0.2 will suffice plentifully. We've been in that house, we've been in the prison, we have to go back to the prison later, but there are these... We've been in the barracks, so there are these 2 buildings down here.
I'll go ahead.
Lan... We have nothing that we can talk to him about currently.
I know the way.
Seeing if there is anything we can loot around here. I don't think so. Okay, let's check out this abandoned building.
Follow my lead.
There's a book over here.
As it should be.
There's a basement down here. Much else of interest here?
That is not far.
Then we have this house here. And apparently there's a basement here. Ah, yes. This place. This is where the wall from the prison that we came out through were. I need to open the window. Pretty warm in here. Okay, we have as far as... Well, there's Social left. We haven't talked to him, so let's go up there. I'll just pause while we walk up. There we go. Sociel is drawing a fortress on a hill with solid walls, looming towers, and knights bearing banners marching through the gates. You don't realize at first that you have seen this place before. The cleric's gift has rendered the lost chapel almost unrecognizable. Good afternoon, Commander. How can I help you? Did you think about what the Hell Knight told you? Yes. Sociel shakes his head. Another dead end. I still know nothing. How could Trevor have parted with his shield? I can't imagine. You don't know what your brother has endured in this war. Perhaps the person you once knew is gone. I don't want to believe that. I can't. Not Trevor. With a sudden shiver, Sociel looks down and whispers faintly. Brother, will I recognize you when I find you? You know, it's not only the Hell Knights who told me the truth. Knight Tirabade refused to tell me anything about my brother's fate while I was serving in Canarbras, but after these events she finally broke her silence. And the thing she told me, Sociel shakes his head, that he was a good fighter but a terrible knight and an utterly worthless paladin. He became more and more cruel as time went on. He started caring more about destroying the enemy than protecting the innocent. He gushed over Prelate Halrun and his witch hunts. Eventually, the goddess's patience wore thin. When he beat up some poor fellow for blasphemy, Shellin took away Trevor's powers. That was a huge blow for him. He left the city, asking only that his disgrace be kept secret from his family. And that was why Irabeth didn't say anything earlier. Brother, my brother. How? He's always been kind and merciful. This cruelty have come from. What do you think of your brother's fate now? I can't wrap my head around what I've learned. It's as if we're talking about a different person altogether. How could he? Why did he give his shield to that she-devil in black armor? Oh, Shellin, let this all be a mistake. I don't think there's anything we can loot in this area up here. We'll check just to make sure. I'll check and then we can go into the keep after that. Nope, there was nothing anywhere in this area at all. Let's pop into the Citadel. And we have all the audiences. Before you stands a tall, fit man whose dark hair is already tinged with grey. He greets you with a brisk military salute. My name is Captain Sailkind. Probably say Sealkind. I command the vanguard of a mercenary group called the Blackstone Company. We've come from Andoran to assist you. I want to know more about your unit. The Blackstone Company is proud to be recognized as one of the finest Andoran mercenary regiments. We are not a bunch of unscrupulous sellswords looking to oppress the innocent and serve the tyrants of the world. No, we are adventurers eager to get involved in a dangerous enterprise and leave it with pockets full of gold and a clear conscience. Which is why we held a vote among our unit. We were glad to accept Queen Galfrey's invitation to join the crusade, although some of our commanders did voice their displeasure with the sum she offered. But like I said, we Andorans are a free people who cannot be pushed around and who cannot be bought, only convinced. Why did you join up with us? Queen Galfrey paid for our services, but please do not think we are fighting for gold alone. We are true sons of and daughters of Andoran, so the ideals of equality and resisting enslavement ring true in our hearts. We will be glad to stand in the way of demons who seek to force mortal kind into bondage. The bulk of our company made camp in Erosian, but the vanguard, consisting of our finest soldier, if I may add, was put under your command. I would like to know more about you, Captain Sealkind. The man flashes a genuine smile. I don't even know what to say. I am a soldier, a bit of an explorer, and just an all-around honest man. Well, get on with your duties then. Yes, sir. Glad to be under your command. Captain Sealkind salutes you again, smiles, and adds in a softer voice, It will be an honor to serve with you, Commander. If you have any questions, let me know. If you need to talk, I'll be happy to lend an ear. Erebeth said that we are under threat from demons with unusual abilities, like that Nabasu that attacked your army at the Lost Chapel. They are very powerful, and they are growing in number. You haven't found out where they're coming from, have you? Haru looks around shyly and continues, lowering her voice as if entrusting you with a personal secret. I'm not sure, but I think I have a lead. I know where to find someone who can lead us to the source of their power. What are you talking about? A hag by the name of Jerunica. She used to live here before the fall of Sarkoris, but when the demon invaded this world, she happily took their side. The old cannibal knows many secrets. You just have to make her talk. Does this Jerunica also have special powers? Her? I doubt it. But still, be careful. She's a very old, very sly creature, and she's incredibly dangerous. Where can I find her? The place is called the Green Gates. I'll show you how to get there. Long ago, before the Worldwound, there was a Sarkorian fortress there. Then crusaders built a small chapel, but for many, many years the place has been home to nothing but an abomination and squalor. How did you find out about this? Haru quickly looks at the faces of those present and seems to curl in on herself. Quietly, almost whispering, she says, "That is a long story. I will tell you when we get there, alright? Thanks for the tip. Happy to help. It's just..." Haru looks around cautiously again and lowers her voice. "You won't go there without me, will you? Want to personally make sure this monster doesn't escape you." Grandma Gretlin lowers herself into a bow. "Good day, your commandership. It is we, the artistic board of the Next Door Theatre. We are still working on our piece about your heroism. We've even taken on a few new crew members. We now have a master of stage equipment and scenery. It's my granddaughter, Tina. Tina, say hello to his commandership." We are faced with another dilemma. We simply cannot decide on a climactic moment for the act that's all about the Battle of Drezen. Here, you listen to the options. Grandma Gretlin holds a scroll up before her eyes and begins to read, running a gnarled finger along each line. Option 1. The commander, so that's you, launches himself out of a catapult and smashes down the fortress wall, allowing the armies to rush inside. Option 2. The commander, so that's you again, masquerades as a succubus and creeps into Drezen in disguise and then opens the gates to the crusaders. Option 3. The commander, so that's you again, arrives to the attack on an enormous mountain goat, or should we call it a battering ram? And it breaks down the city gates. Well, what say you? I like the version where I ride on the back of an enormous mountain goat, but where are you going to get a goat that size? We're still working on that part, your commandership. It's hard to get a goat in the middle of the Worldwound, especially an enormous one, but we'll think of something, don't you worry. Grandma Gretlin and her entourage move away, but their voices project so well that you can easily hear the rest of the conversation. Do you think the commander will mind if we add the goat and the catapult to the show? That way, the bit where he breaks down the gates will make for much better drama. Granny, did you forget that the role of the commander is being played by those gnome twins packed into one long cloak? Has anyone ever tried firing 2 gnomes in a cloak out of a catapult before? Calm yourself, Tina, it's just a minor snag. You can't achieve success without a few difficulties along the way. We'll think of something, you'll see. Please, I'm of half a mind to just get them out of here. The grim voice of Zacharias the Lich suddenly booms inside your mind. Student, you have proven yourself a worthy crusader. To defeat the demons in this war, you have fearlessly sought the secrets of death. Your determination deserves respect. Now we can proceed with your great transformation into a lich. For that, I shall need a suitable laboratory where I can scrutinize and condition your spiritual body in solitude, preparing it for rebirth. As for you, you will need a palace from which you will rule over the legions of the dead. Give the order to erect a ziggurat in Drezen. Zacharias' imperious voice betrays a hint of vanity. It must be an imposing building, one worthy of receiving me as its guest. This is where you will discover eternal life. If the need arises to demolish a few buildings for the construction, ensure that they are located far enough away from the squalor of the slums. I do not wish for my ingredient stores to be ravaged by rats. As you wish, Master Zacharias. You display sensible obedience. That is good. For that I shall reward you generously. Get on with it. Be hearing from him again. A middle-aged paladin with a genial face offers you a guarded greeting. His sparse grey hair stands in fuzzy tufts. Not tufty. Almost said tufty fuss. On his head, giving him a distinctly unwarlike appearance. The ever-bright crusaders have arrived to defend Drezen. My name is Siar Cobellon, and I am their commander. Queen Galfrey is gathering the main attack forces in Erosian, and she ordered us to replenish the losses suffered in Canabris and come here. We will support your troops. A tall, dark-eyed lad is standing behind Siar. He passionately echoes Siar's words. We are ready to go to the front immediately. Allow us to be at the spear of the attack. The old crusader calls the young man to order. Morveg, don't speak unless spoken to. Don't worry, no one will be defeating any demons without you. Siar smiles kindly and tussles the boy's hair. Who have you brought with you? Everbright Crusaders mainly, but we have a lot of volunteers who joined us. Those who arrived at the Queen's call but didn't want to sit in Erosian waiting for the main army to set off. All the hotheads know that the front is here. Siar nods at the boy behind him, the one who's eager to fight. We picked up this one too. He walked to Canabris with an old sword in his hand and a few copper coins in his pocket. He was going to keep walking, to kill the demons, and then he would probably have led siege to Threshold, no doubt. The boy's cheeks go pink at the old man's gentle mockery, but he continues to stare ahead, resolutely and boldly. Did you fight in Canabris? How are things there? Not personally, no. The Queen summoned me and the bulk of our order to Nerosian. Almost all those who remained behind in Canabris died, and the ones that didn't were disorganized and leaderless, but the order did not perish. New volunteers have been pouring into our ranks. We are licking our wounds. Canabris is rebuilding. Life wins out. People are coming from all over Avistan to help. Many are joining up with the Crusaders, just as it happened back in the First Crusade. Great, you will be serving under my command. Siar's mouth flattens into a hard line and he gives you a stern look. You can see the seasoned warrior hiding behind the grandfatherly guise. That is out of the question. We know about your powers and that is why we don't trust you. What's more, I'm convinced you are an enemy of the Crusaders. You will reveal your true nature sooner or later. The Queen orders us to help you hold the city, and so we will. But she didn't say a word about us personally obeying your orders. The Everbright Crusaders will act independently. I am the commander. You must obey me. Siar lowers his head stubbornly. Arguing is useless. No Everbright Crusader will take orders from a person who has darkness in their soul. The old man looks at you grimly. You've gone down the wrong path. You can defeat the darkness when your soul is pure and your heart is daring. Everyone who has ever tried to defeat darkness with darkness has become its slave. Reject this evil power and repent before it's too late. I expect we'll have many of those kinds of encounters. Strangely enough, I did not have those kinds of encounters when I was following the angel path. Look who it is, hi! Have you figured out how the demons have been sneaking up on us? Anivia answers with scarcely concealed irritation. No dice. Our scouts crawled all over the area, down every hole. Nothing. The grey road was completely empty, and then, bam, a whole army popped up like a jack-in-the-box. My only lead is a few scouts who didn't come back from the gorges to the southwest. But we've found no sign of secret paths or underground passageways, and definitely no route we can use to quietly move a large force through. But I feel it in my gut. There is some evil scum out there. We just have to look harder. Of course, I could send out more scouts, but they might just disappear like the first ones. Why don't you go there yourself and find out what's what? Anivia punches a fist into her palm. You know, I'd like to give that rat Nura a good shake. How long was she serving the demons, I wonder? I'd bet good silver if I turned her upside down and shook her as hard as I could, something interesting would fall out, not just lice. What do you think of my new powers? Anivia looks at you sadly. There's nothing good about this. The things you've had to do and the fact we're fighting alongside the dead because we'll never pull this off without them. But at least we're moving forward, not falling back like before. I guess it was the only way. Bad times call for bad measures. Did you find out anything about where Minago is now? Anivia shakes her head sharply. Nope. Zero zilch. A whole lot and nothing. The scum melted into thin air. Soldiers saw her jump out of the window, run through the square in front of the citadel and suddenly disappeared. We haven't heard anything from her since, and I don't like it. I'm telling you, this is bad. First of all, her kind just don't give up. If we can't see her, it means she's setting a trap for us, somewhere we won't expect. I mean, it would be great if the Demon Lords just gobbled her up for all her failures, but I think that's too much to hope for. That's not the worst part. We have a more interesting question, you know. I wonder how she teleported from the city, if by that time you'd already hung the banner. The soldiers are saying it probably wasn't in full force by then, but you and I both know that's dross. She wasn't supposed to be able to teleport, but she did. The question is, how? We have Regil. Regil stands with his hands behind his back, his favourite pose it would seem. He seems submerged in thought, but gathers himself immediately as you approach. His pale yellow eyes examine you inquisitively. Knight Commander, it is good you found time to meet me. There is a matter of some urgency I must discuss with you. It was incredibly interesting, the power you and your companions received during the fight at the Grey Garrison, and now my interest has been gratified. The power your companions received has passed on to me as well. It manifested after my usual evening reckoning. I believe I now present a true threat to the creatures and initiates of chaos. The imprisoned cultist we kept for certain observations experienced this firsthand. Regil's voice is unemotional, almost bored, but leaves no doubt as to the cultist's fate. Striking, isn't it? A divine intervention at a critical moment is rare, but not beyond imagining. But in this case, part of the power that you received through this intervention has passed to someone who joined you well after the fateful moment had passed. I hope that you remember who the source of your power is, and that you serve them loyally. By the same token, I hope you remember that the Hell Knights are not your toy soldiers. In any case, this is shallow philosophizing. You must have some questions for me. May I ask you a few questions about yourself? Of course. What brought you to Mendev? The demonic threat, of course, and the glaring inefficiency of the local command. I do not know if you are aware of this, but the Hell Knights owe their existence to the Demon Lords to a certain extent. Our first order appeared in response to Sifkesh's cultists in Cheliax. The chaos they wreaked could not fail to breed strict opposition. Those first knights were able to burn out the pestilence and crush the cult once and for all. I see no reason for the Hell Knights of today not to do the same to the tentacles the Worldwound is spreading. There. Without question, the task is far more difficult than anything we've encountered before, but it must be done to preserve world order. All the more so given that Queen Galfrey and her commanders are apparently not up to the task. The motives you list sound rather impersonal. Don't you have any other reasons for joining the crusade? Impersonality is a fine quality for a Hell Knight, and for the rest of the world as well. Personal motives, strong emotions, they are weaknesses that your enemies will use against you. I am an effective officer with years of service. The demonic invasion of Golarion obviously demands the most qualified response. That is why I am here. It's simple. You are rather skeptical about Queen Galfrey. If my memory doesn't fail me, the current crusade is called the Fifth. The Fifth Crusade. And with all of the support of the Church of Iomedae and multiple other allies provided to Galfrey, no progress has been made in resolving the crisis at the Worldwound. The best they could manage was create a chain of ward stones, and even they turned out to be inadequate. I suppose that should be reason enough for my skepticism. Forgive me for asking a personal question, but your hair is going grey and your skin is rather pale. It is the bleaching, right? Of course it's the bleaching. Regil shrugs indifferently. Are you doing anything to fight the bleaching? What do other races do to fight the old age? Regil allows himself a brief smirk. I know what made you ask this question. My kin have earned a certain reputation for their vain attempt to stave off the inevitable. Luckily for the rest of the world, not all gnomes are prepared to spread chaos with their reckless escapades. There are some among us who accept the natural order of things. The bleaching has no effect on my ability to carry out my duties, and therefore it has no, how should I put it, personal meaning for me. Do you have any family or friends? I've never wondered at the fate of the former, and never had any interest in the latter. If you'll allow me one piece of advice, Commander, never put too much stock in so-called friendship or camaraderie. Any bonds based on simple affection are temporary and unreliable. Half of your smiling companions certainly consider you their friend for the present, but they will break and betray you the moment you do anything that troubles their happy expectations. In this, I suspect Regil is very, very, very correct. Place greater value on respect based on a rational evaluation of your companion's merits. I deeply respected my mentor, who trained me to join the ranks of the Hell Knights. I respected her so much that I killed her with my own hands when I discovered that she had betrayed the Order's ideals and was intending to leave our ranks. It would have been more proper to inform the command and await the formal trial, but on the other hand, that would have injured the morale of our young recruits. They should not see manifestations of weakness in our seasoned knights. Regil cringes. You have openly shown your distrust of the Crusader command. Why then have you decided to join me? Do not misread my behavior as distrust of you personally. Like every Hell Knight, I watch everyone closely, searching for signs of weakness and sin. Everyone, including myself. Regil speaks the last word pointedly. Indeed, Regil Derenge is first on my list of suspects. I observe him daily, marking every fault, every hesitation, every weakness, and I prepare the proper punishment. So it has been and will be. As for your second question, I suppose we may be useful to each other. You and your army are a new power in the Crusade. I rate all the old powers as quite ineffective. I have yet to rate your own efforts, but early indications are positive. That means you may count on my help. For now. I like the way you think, strict on yourself and rational towards others. This only confirms my initial assessment. I am glad to hear it, Commander. Regil bends a little in a polite half-bow. Thank you for your answers. Regil nods politely. What can you tell me about the Hell Knights? I could tell you a great deal. However, the Order's recruiters would be a better source of information on such matters. How are new Order members recruited? We accept as armigers any we find worthy, but for the main test, the one that separates the strong from the weak, they must face down a devil summoned directly from hell. If they defeat the beast honestly, the armiger becomes a rightful Hell Knight. If they lose, we simply forget their existence, like the world made an unfortunate mistake. Who do Hell Knights answer to? Only to the heads of their orders. In my case, it is Lictor Resarch Untor, head of the Order of the Godclaw. As a rule, the Hell Knights do not submit to the jurisdiction of an estate. The same is true of local laws. We are happy to help local governments bring order if we consider their request lawful and if those who ask are worthy. But we do not serve them and have every right to refuse their demands. So what do you value most? The law, and only the law. You care so much about the law, how can you ignore the authority of the lawful rulers in the lands where you operate? We cannot call it law just because some foolish local prince thought it up, or a council of demented elders deems it wise, now can we? You see, one of the main principles of our brotherhood is that no one is immune from prosecution. A lawful ruler may be a criminal that poses a threat to society. We must be able to punish them as well. This is why Hell Knights only honor the measure and the chain, the doctrine shared by all our orders, and why Hell Knights serve only their officers and the aim of transforming this chaos-torn world and leading it to a brilliant and ordered future. We are the main bastion of order in Golarion, no matter how much some naysayers try to refute it. Thank you, I've learned everything I wanted to know. Expanding one's knowledge is a good deed, provided of course that this knowledge is useful. Ask if you have any further questions. Do you have a plan or a strategy for the war against the demons? A spark flashes in Regiel's eyes. I have a clear idea of the forces I shall require to wage effective war against the Worldwound. Currently, I do not possess them, but I know what steps I must take. We must amass and fortify, gather scouting information, reserve certain problems of an organizational nature. My people are establishing an outpost not far from the ruins of an ancient shrine. Demons appear there often, so we'll be tracking them for information and honing our skills in combat. This is my strategy for the moment. Thank you for speaking with me. Until next time. And then Irabeth. We can give her the solemn hour. I wanted to see. Hold on. Right, so for now I'm going to hold on to the sword, and we can give it back to her later. We need to talk about what happened during the attack on Drezen. Irabeth nods curtly. Yes, I was shamefully faint-hearted. Praise Iomade, it didn't affect the course of the battle. Still, my behavior was unworthy of a knight, even less of a commander. Under the circumstances, leaving my position would be tantamount to desertion. Still, as your advisor, I strongly recommend you release me from my position as head of the Order, strip me of my knighthood, and send me to serve in the Condemned. We'll go with this one. That suggestion is no better than desertion, except you want me to take responsibility for it. I don't want to hear it. Join the ranks, knight, and fight as... Join the ranks, knight, and fight as you swore to do. Yes, I swore, with the goddess and the queen. My faith in my abilities may be weakened, but I cannot turn back on the vows I made. I will do it because I must. The half-orc salutes you sharply. For a moment, you once again see the Irabeth who was ready to protect the defender's heart to her dying breath. Thank you for still trusting me. More than anyone else does in this crusade. Even more than I trust myself. Despite your words, Irabeth obviously still feels unworthy of her commander's rank. Changing her mind will require more than platitudes. Perhaps you can bolster her by appointing her to a position where she can work more closely with the rank-and-file soldiers, those whose faith in their commander remains undimmed. How is the Eagle Watch doing in Canarbras? Everything's going well. I was wary of handing over the reins at first. I was afraid that everything would fall apart without Anivia and me. But I took a risk and left a very clever lad in charge. A tiefling, as it happens. He infiltrated the cult alone. I couldn't imagine a tiefling wouldn't be on their side. He exposed an entire cell. I personally knighted him just before the city was attacked. Of course, there were many who weren't happy about it, but it's not my job to make people happy. He hasn't disappointed, he has built up the Order's ranks again and is running everything so smoothly it's as if the demon attack never happened. He's proven more than once that I left Canarbras in good hands, but I admit it's still strange to think that such a small order as the Eagle Watch now has 2 chapters, one in Drezen and one in Canarbras. Then of course we have the crusade affairs that we can manage here, which is very similar to the kingdom affairs. We have decrees, which are then grouped up after that into rank ups, development, economy, army, command, relics, and other. These are the current events. We have necromancy, so armies get a replenishment of skeletons and zombies equal to the value of the killed enemies divided by 275 after a victory. This means that recruiting mercenary units is increased by 100% and that the recruitment growth for trainable units is reduced by 50%. We can go to campaign, which will show us our armies. And then have an undead army. Geesh, 600 of each. Well, these are rather crappy, so... However, I believe that the crusade management stuff is something that we should deal with in the next episode, which shall be episode 41. We will take a quick dip down into the dungeon to talk to Nura before leaving the city and do some of the actual adventuring around. If you have any questions and or comments, then please do feel free to leave those down in the comment section below. And I hope that you enjoyed the episode and that you will join me in the next one as well.